Good evening, everyone. We'll be starting in less than a minute. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama sambuddhassa. Last time I spoke about the Majjhima Patipata, the middle path, and one of the aspects of the middle path was in terms of views, expressing that the idea of the dependent origination is the middle path between eternalism and nihilism. So I want to look today at the topic of conditionality or causality in Buddhist thought. This is a very important underpinning of many of the Buddhist teachings. The idea that everything is conditioned, that it arises from causes and conditions, is so central that we distinguish between sankata and asankata, conditioned and unconditioned, as synonyms for samsara and nibbana. So the only thing whatsoever that escapes from the law of causality is nibbana. The fact that everything is conditioned and dependent upon other things is tied in very closely with the three characteristics of dukkha, anicca, anatta. Because things are conditioned and dependent on other things, they're essentially dukkha, imperfect, in that nothing whatsoever can be singled out as a totally independent entity. Everything only exists as an intersection of causes and conditions from outside itself. So this is one way actually of understanding emptiness, anatta or sunyata, as well, because nothing has an inherent individual essence. Everything is only a reflection of other things. And impermanence ties in with this, in that all these various causes and conditions are constantly in flux, so that nothing really persists for more than a moment. There are, I would say, at least three areas of Dhamma that in which the Buddha or his later commentators expanded or expounded upon the idea of causality. The most central one, the primary one, is the dependent origination, which is often taken almost as a synonym for the law of causality. And you may probably be familiar with the Paticcasamuppada in 12 steps that represents the explanation of how this whole mass of suffering comes to be. This is a special case. This meant to explain in some detail the situation or the dilemma of human beings in the world. It can be read as an expansion of first and second noble truths. But there's a more general statement of dependent arising that occurs in several places. In English translation, this being that exists, through the arising of this that arises. This not being that does not exist, through the ceasing of this that ceases. This is the most universal elementary statement of cause and effect. Things exist because of other causes. They cease to exist when those causes change or cease. Now, it's important to, when thinking about conditionality, it's important to pay attention to the statement that's found in the Abhidhamma that nothing arises without a cause and nothing arises from a single cause. I think this is the root of many misconceptions. Is the idea of monocausal explanations, and that this applies, I think, in many fields. There is an idea of a proximate cause and predominant cause. Now, some things are more important in the network of cause and effect, but everything whatsoever is totally enmeshed in a web of causes and conditions that can never be fully explained or explicated by the mind. The whole universe is interrelated. Every piece of it reflects every other piece. This idea of interdependence is a central theme in Huayan Buddhism, a Chinese school, and they have in one of their scriptures they have a very beautiful simile for this, in the simile of Indra's net. That the god Indra, that we call Saka in our tradition, the god Indra in his palace has a decoration, is a three-dimensional weave, a net, and with silver threads, and at every point in which the threads intersect, there is a multifaceted jewel. And in each jewel has a multitude of faces, and if you focus in on any one face, you'll see the entire net reflected within, including smaller reflections of all the jewels. And if you were able to bore your vision down microscopically into this will endlessly expand. Each facet of each jewel reflects the entire net. So it's very much a fractal kind of a concept. If you've ever played with the software that illustrates the Mandelbrot set, you're familiar with this concept. This beautiful pattern derived from a quite simple mathematical formula. It's a twisting kind of flowery repeated form, and if you focus in on expand any part of that, you'll see the whole thing repeated again and again ad infinitum. So the whole universe is like that. Each part is a reflection of all the rest. So nothing exists from its own side, nothing exists independently, everything is interdependent and interrelated. So that's one, the dependent origination in its various explanations is one way of looking at causality. Another way from Abhidhamma is the whole book of the Patana. This is the last book of the Abhidhamma, and it's the largest. It's a very lengthy work. Would run to several volumes printed in book form. I don't believe the whole thing has ever been translated, and it deals in detail with the interrelation of mind objects and material objects according to the laws of causality, of which there are 24 types of causation. But this can be simplified to 4 types, and the other 20 are special cases of these 4. And these 4 are object condition, decisive support condition, kamma condition, and presence condition. Meaning, if something is present, it can can act as a cause. Decisive support is those causes which are most weighty or important in the occurrence of an event. Kamma is, of course, a kamma, and presence condition is simply something is present and something else can arise. In the Visuddhimagga, there's the chapter on paticca dependent origination, is cross-referenced with these 24 causes. So we can see from this that in the period when the Abhidhamma was compiled and explicated, that the compilers were thinking very deeply about the laws of causality and how causation actually works, which is a tricky philosophical issue. Even in other schools of philosophy, it's one of the main things that they try and explain is the workings of causality. Another set of explanations for causality from a later period in the Abhidhamma, from the commentarial literature, is the idea of the 5 niyamas. The word niyama is used in yoga philosophy in an entirely different meaning, so don't be confused by that if you've ever studied any Patanjali or any yoga philosophy. In the Buddhist system, niyama are classes of causation that interact with each other and cause things to occur, either in the mind, the body, and the external world. These are utu niyama. Utu means climate or temperature, and this is the laws that govern the seasons and the alternation of day and night, and of the seasons of the year, and how plants will come into flower at a certain season, and so forth. This is all covered by utu niyama. Bija niyama means seed law. Bija is seed, and this refers to what we would in modern parlance we would call genetics. And it's the law that determines that, for example, a mango seed coming from a mango tree will only turn into a mango tree. It won't turn into an oak or something else. It's because of bija niyama, the law of heredity or genetics. There is chitta niyama, which is the laws of the mind, particularly in this context, the cognitive series from Abhidhamma, that the different chittas follow one another in a fixed sequence to cause the occurrence of a cognition, but also more generally all the workings of the mind. It follows its own set of laws. As kamma niyama is the law of kamma, the cause and effect inherent in intentional actions and their results, or vipaka. And the final category is dhamma niyama, which is explained in a couple of different ways by different in different texts. The more general way is to see dhamma niyama as natural law, dhamma in the sense of dhammata, that which is natural. And it's said to encompass all the other laws. So it's the general, overall, natural law that would include any kind of occurrences that can't easily be fit into the other four. The other explanation for Dhamma Niyama is that it includes specifically those incidents that we might class as wondrous or miraculous that occur particularly in the career of a Buddha. For example, when a Buddha is enlightened, the earth is said to quake and the brilliant light illuminates 10,000 world systems for a moment. And this is not explainable by any of the other laws, so it's a Dhamma Niyama. You see, there's a sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya that deals with no, it's in the Digha Nikaya that deals with the life of a previous Buddha. But in each paragraph it says, no, this is the same for all Buddhas because this is dhammata, this is natural. And it would be things like his mother died 7 days after his birth. This is so for all Buddhas. This is the natural law. This is dhammata. Because the Buddhas do follow, all the Buddhas follow a archetypal set of events that they're not identical, and each Buddha is unique, but they do have certain events that occur that are archetypal, that occur for every Buddha. So these are the 5 niyamas. Now one topic coming from this that I'd like to address is the workings of kamma in relation to the other niyamas. One of the statements of the Buddha was that he denounced as a false view those who claim that everything is determined by kamma. And I think that statement has been somewhat misunderstood or misinterpreted by many, because we have to balance this against the teaching from the Abhidhamma that every sense experience that we have has as one of its primary causes previous kamma. So everything we experience in life has as one of its causes kamma. Now this is where the monocausal fallacy really trips you up, because if you think kamma is the only cause of an event, it doesn't work. When anything occurs to us in the world, whether it's something pleasant or unpleasant, kamma is one of the reasons, one of the causes of that, but there are external natural causes as well. You know, an example might be if you see a beautiful sunset and experience pleasure from the beauty, you know, that is a classed as the vision, the sight is classed as a kamma resultant. It was your previous kamma that earns you the merit of enjoying this moment. But your kamma did not cause the sunset. The sunset is caused by utuniyama, the natural laws governing the rotation of the earth and the constitution of the atmosphere and the wavelength of the sun and so on. All these things are natural events that occur whether you see the sunset or not. If you didn't have the kamma to see a beautiful sunset that evening, the sunset would still occur, but you would be maybe indoors or you'd be turned away from it. You wouldn't see it. So this is why we must never, fall back to the idea that there's one cause for everything. Everything is so interrelated that we can never really fully prize apart all the causes for any event. But we can offer general explanations and get some understanding of these laws. And reliance on the idea of conditionality, of dependent origination, of causality, of cause and effect, negates any idea of a superstitious view or a magical view or the idea of luck or chance or randomness. There's nothing occurs that's entirely random or without cause, without a cause and condition. So there's really no such thing as luck. There's no such thing as chance. I would say, though, there is such a thing as probability. And this is, I think, another error that people fall into, that they think that conditionality means determinism. Things are not determined. That there's this is another view that actually that the Buddha classified as a false view. The idea that everything is determined from beginningless time, and we're all just living out a script, and there's no freedom in no free will. We have no choice but to just follow out this script that has been in existence from beginningless time. We do have freedom. That's part of conditionality, and our will, our decisions that we make are conditioned, but they're not fixed. There's a kind of probabilistic element here that based on our conditioning, we're more likely to make certain choices. This is habit mind, but we can break habit mind and do something different. We have that freedom. So I think I'll stop there talking about conditionality, and please put in the chat if you have any questions, and we can continue for a while. I'm not seeing anything as yet. Okay, so if there's no, okay, somebody's coming up with something. Someone just put in Dear Bante. Is Metatron's symbol similar to Indra's net? Are all Jnana Dhammas natural Dhammas? I don't know what the Metatron symbol is. Yeah, the niyamas are natural laws. Have you given any teachings on Dhamma and modern physics? I kind of incorporate that sometimes into my talks. I don't think I've done one specifically on that. Intellectual enlightenment is rampant in modern Buddhism. People claim to understand emptiness and think they're enlightened, ignoring causality completely. Any thoughts? Yeah, I mean it's easy to make all kinds of claims, and I think it's a kind of an unhealthy tendency, and that I see sometimes in some modernist Buddhist teachers and movements. And if you ignore causality, you don't understand samsara. If you don't understand samsara, which is first noble truth, basically, there's no way you can ever grasp nibbana. Is kamma niyama the factor that allows merit to reach the pretas but not other realms? Okay, that's an interesting question. The idea of sharing merit, which is widely practiced in Asia, people will offer merit for a gift or a good deed to their departed relatives who might be in the Peta realm. And the theory of how that works is that the Peta, being a kind of helpless condition, there's very little they can do to actually make good karma for themselves to escape from their Peta condition. But if someone does a good deed, the kamma is not transferred to the Peta directly, because you can only make kamma for yourself. But the Peta, by rejoicing in the good deed, he does make merit. It's the only way he can make any kamma is by rejoicing in the good deeds of others. And it only applies to the Peta realm. In the other realms, the hell realm, they're too far gone to reach with any human intervention. And in the higher realms, the Deva realms, they're not as helpless condition like the Petas. There are many questions. Can you see them? Yeah, I see them now. That just took a while for the load, I guess. Could you clarify how it is that they are a concentration object, please? Do we use it in jhana practice, or how exactly, please? Thank you. Concentration object, I assume by that you mean a nimitta for meditation, which is any object that we focus our mind on and try and fill consciousness with becomes a nimitta for our meditation. And the stability of the mind is what determines entry into deeper samadhi and into jhana. Is if the mind is resting in a peaceful way on a single object. How a particle, when observed, is different from not observed, which is part of my inquiry for clarification. That was the expansion from the question about physics. Is there any relation? I missed that one, I guess. Is there any relation to the observer and observed action or things that you hear about in physics? Yeah, that is a whole really interesting topic. The understanding of quantum mechanics, at least in the Copenhagen interpretation, is that it takes an observer to collapse the wave function, that reality exists as a probability field. Now, this is also, I kind of mentioned towards the end of my talk about the importance of probability, as opposed to kind of determinism. So I've heard some people talk about this quantum probability as of a randomness. So it's not random if it's a probability. Probability means there's a certain potential for things to occur that might be very high, and other potentials that are less, but they only manifest as a reality when they're observed. So there's a relationship between consciousness and external reality. I see this, the idea of the probability field is very close to the idea in Buddhist thought of the ultimate emptiness of things, the sunyata, because the emptiness of or the voidness of reality means that there's an infinite potential. And when something occurs as an actual event or object in the world, is the collapse of the wave function or an object occurring in our consciousness. This is a dukkha because it's something broken, something imperfect. So I see these two ways of looking at things as very close, actually. Let's see what else we got here. For anapanasati at the nostrils, should one be aware of the most obvious place of the breath, even if it is found in different places when it is noticed? Yes, wherever the sensation is clearest, and that may change with time, but try and avoid moving it about unnecessarily. Is ill will any form of anger? If nothing and no one can make you become angry, even a situation, is that the mind state of an anagami? Ill will is anger is one type of ill will, but not all ill will could be classed as anger. There's just a dislike or annoyance. It's not the same thing as anger. And yes, to be completely free of ill will, not arising in any form, is the state of an anagami. David Hume's idea that we can't prove causality, only association. I wonder if Buddha was aware of that, if it influenced the careful way he formulated the teachings on conditionality. I don't know if that was even, that idea of Hume's was even present in the Indian discourse at the time. It is somewhat reminiscent of later Buddhist philosopher Nagarjuna, whose teachings of Madhyamika, he criticized the Abhidharma explanation of things on the basis of something very similar to that. He said that the teaching of Abhidhamma, first of all, posits that a dhamma only exists for a moment and is then succeeded by another dhamma that is dependent on it in a relationship of cause and effect. But if the first dhamma has utterly ceased, then how could it affect the second dhamma? When you travel abroad, you still adhere to the rigorous 1 meal a day before noon rule. What if your plate is too late? How do you eat? I only eat between dawn and noon. We're allowed to take more than one meal in that time period. There have been rare occasions when I'm traveling that I miss a meal for a day. Fasting for one day doesn't kill you. It's not that bad. Let's see. I meant about iddhipadas and jhana concentration. Have to scroll back and see what you could. Could you clarify how it is they were a concentration aspect, please? Oh, okay. The relationship between iddhipadas and jhana. Yeah, that's one of the main reasons the teaching of iddhipadas was given, is because they're supports for success in jhana. These are chitta, chanda, virya, vimamsa. Chitta is the one-pointedness of the mind, that you're taking one object and holding it. The chitta is filled with the object. Chanda is the enthusiasm that you take to the practice, that you're not doing it in kind of a half-hearted way. You're devoting yourself to the practice. Virya is the energy that you put into it. And vimamsa is investigation, is that you're paying attention to what you're doing and keeping the mind sharp and learning as you go, learning how to improve your practice by experience. The iddhipadas also apply to any activity we undertake in life. Anything we do is going to be done better if the iddhipadas are present. But it's also said in terms of jhana that any one of the four iddhipadas will be, for any individual, might be stronger and might be the basis for the jhana, but the other ones will support it. When one encounters bad karma coming from conditionality, what's the most skillful reaction? For example, if you're getting bullied or mistreated, just take the abuse with equanimity. I think there's a balance that has to be maintained. You do try and keep your mind in a state of non-ill will. You'll try and remain with equanimity, but that doesn't mean you turn yourself into a perpetual victim. You can. The most skillful thing is if you stand up for yourself and your rights and your boundaries, but without losing your temper or falling into negativity yourself. It's not easy, but that's the ideal. In the sequence of dependent origination, do you have a preferred translation for avijja? Yes, ignorance. I think it's a very literal translation. Avidya is not knowing, and ignorance is from the Greek, not knowing. You prefer no vision, no knowledge. No knowledge would be very literal. I think not knowing would probably be the best. Why is nibbana not conditioned? Does nibbana have an essence or self? Is nibbana permanent? No, no to any of those. It's not permanent, but it's not impermanent either. It's akaliko. It's outside of time. Regarding quantum mechanics and physics, it's quite interesting how AI interprets the Dhamma in relation to quantum mechanics. Finally, is being curious about death and afterlife wholesome or unwholesome? I think it's to a degree it's wholesome, but if it becomes like an obsession, it might become unwholesome. Can we call Nibbana something like infinite potential or quantum superposition? I think it's best not to try and define Nibbana. It's outside of discourse, logical discourse, and language. And then anytime you try and pin it down with words, you're going to end up getting it wrong in some way. It's best to just leave it as a mystery until it's experienced. Thank you, Venerable. Hope you and your cat are doing well. Yes, I think we're both doing well. Will you know right away when you've attained to anagami? Does it take time? Those arahantship, will you know right away? I think you will know, but it's also possible to have a false idea that you've attained to some state when you haven't. When you practice the 10 perceptions, are you working with all of the niyamas? I haven't thought that one through, but I would think so, yes. So the iddipadas must be applied every time for right samadhi practice. Yes, I think so. Okay, I think we'll leave it at that for this week, and I'll see you again next week, same time, same place. Thank you.